Okay, so for a while now, I've wanted to be able to experiment with hypervisors other than Proxmox, just curiosity. And of course, one of the really well-known ones out there is VMware, but you couldn't get it for free, or you used to be able to get it for free. And then they took that away when Broadcom bought them, and then now they've brought it back again. So I wanted to show putting VMware ESXi on a G4. It's going to have a Pentium i5 8500T on it and about 16 gig of memory. And I'm going to just use a normal SATA SSD for the OS or the hypervisor and for creating a VM. And I thought, why don't we go ahead and install Windows Server 2025 on it, just as another way of something to look at. And the cool thing is that for both of these, they're free. Windows 2025 is an eval version that gets you 6 months to play with it. The VMware is free, at least until Broadcom changes their mind again, but at least you'll be able to play with it. It's got some limitations. I'll kind of show what it is on their support page and kind of go through as far as getting it installed, how to put on Windows Servers 2025. Just something to play with. And again, as a way, so hey, maybe you want 2025. Maybe you want to install also the eval for, I don't know, maybe SQL Server, or you want to get into Active Directory, or any other kinds of stuff that runs on Windows Server. Okay, so let's start first. If you go on to type, what I did is I just typed in VMware free ESXi host. And there's a lot of terms that get thrown around. You've got VMware, you've got vSphere, you got vCenter. They all kind of come under this umbrella of VMware. vCenter is kind of like a overarching that allows you to connect up multiple hosts or multiple ESXi hosts and connect with. Well, that one you got to pay for. This one is just a straight hypervisor, much like Proxmox. Although with Proxmox, you can actually do clustering and other kinds of stuff. So for most folks, that's probably where they're going to go. So if you come down here, go to this, I'll include a link, of course, in the description, this VMware update now available free hypervisor. And it walks you through talking about some of the stuff that you can do with it, but also, and of course, it's for home labs, development testing. You can do as many VMs as you want with the hardware you've got. You can only do 2 physical CPUs per host and 8 virtual CPUs per virtual machine. And but that, again, that should be enough to get you going. And I'll show you with mine. We're probably going to do 4 virtual CPUs and then maybe 12 gig of memory, something like that. Little things that, you can't use it with vCenter. What you're going to need to do is log on to the support portal, go in, and you're going to have to register in order to get the free software. And I'll let you go through and do the registration part. Okay, once you've created your account, you're going to log into this support.broadcom.com. What you want to do is go over to software and then click plus on any of these and pick my downloads. Now, nothing's going to come up because all you're eligible for is free stuff. So you go to free software downloads available and come down to VMware vSphere hypervisor. And there's only one choice and only one version. And then you can do the download. Now, 618 meg. So we've got that guy. Let's go and grab the Windows 2025. So for that, you're going to type in Windows Server 2025 ISO download 64-bit. And there's 2 options here. If you click this first one, you're going to have to give your info, but you can just as easily pop here and it's just going to come up with a list of them, and then you're just going to pick the 64-bit edition. Now, once you have both of the ISOs downloaded, what you're going to want to do is get the VMware, and you can either use the trusty old Rufus to create a bootable installer from it, or what I like to do is put it on Ventoy. Okay, so here we're inside of Ventoy. We're going to find the VMware installer. And it kind of sits on this yellow screen for a little bit, especially toward the end. It seems to kind of get a little hung up. Okay, we're just about done, or at least for the next phase. Yep, see, this is where on this GPU manager, I believe this is the one last time when I ran it, it seemed to take a little bit. It was on that last part, I would say a good 3 minutes, maybe more. We'll say continue. And yeah, sure, we F11. And in my particular case, I've got the PNY 500 gig SATA, so I'll just say okay. Let's see, what's that? Enter what we want to do for our password. Okay, and F11 to install. All right, we'll disconnect Ventoy and we'll let it reboot. And it's coming back in. It's going to load all these drivers. Almost looks like the installer, but it is actually booting up. Okay, so went through all the startup, and it's telling us that we can manage the host by going in our browser and using those particular IP addresses. But what I think I would rather do now is go in and customize and set a static IP. So let's go in, hit F2. So just remember the login name is always root unless you create other accounts. And then we'll type in the password. And what you want to do is come down to the configure management network, IPv4 config. And then we want to do static IP. You go down there, hit the space bar. This is old school. You can't use the mouse for it. So then we'll come down here, and as soon as you hit backspace, it gets rid of everything. But I've got a static IP I want to use for this one. So I'm going to do 1.80. I got my subnet, default gateway. That's all the same. I'm going to hit enter. Okay. I'll go into DNS. We'll say we don't want to make it automatic. We actually want to give the DNS. Happens to have the DNS that I use, which is my main router. Host name, let's call this ESXi. And enter, escape, exit. Do we want to change it? Or I should say, apply the changes? Yes. So now we can actually log out. And let's go into our web browser, and we can actually go into the full screen GUI that will allow us to create VMs, check the status, and data stores, the whole 9 yards. Okay, now we can go into the console or the GUI interface, and we type in our IP, or you'll probably get something like this. You could just say, go ahead, go for it. Login, the user is root, and password like we had before. Do that. Okay, so here's some basics, just kind of telling you got 6 CPUs, kind of your machine that you're on, networking. So one of the first things we want to check out is the storage, and this is going to be where we're going to actually create the VMs. It's going to be also where the drives for those VMs will be created. And it's also a place that we can put our ISO images. So let's go into data store 1. This was automatically created for us, and it's using the SSD. And we can go into the browser, And I've already created a folder called ISO, and then that's where I'm going to put the 2025 image. So let's do an upload, and it should be this one. And we'll say OK. And then you'll see as far as the percentage here as it's running through. Okay, so we've got our file. Now we can close this. Now let's go to virtual machines and let's create one. So we're going to create our 2025. Create new virtual machine. We'll just call it Windows Server 2025. I think you could just leave this as what's set there. It wants to know kind of the family. It's Windows. And then the actual OS. And in our case, it's right here. Microsoft Windows Server 2025. And we'll say next. Data store. This is where it's going to actually, you could have multiple data stores, so you could have a data store that's another SSD. You could have it a NFS drive, lots of possibilities. In our case, we just have the one data store, so we'll just use it. We'll say next. How many CPUs? Let's give it 4. We'll say 4 CPUs. Let's do, I think we were going to do 12 gig. Since I can't multiply very well, we'll do it like this way, 12 gigabytes. Hard drive, 90 should be fine for our kind of testing. SCSI controller, you can leave that as is. Network adapter, host device. Actually, that one we do want to change. So we want to say data store ISO file. Then from here, we would pick ISO. We'll pick the one that we had. Say select. And essentially, this is sort of sticking in the install CD into the CD drive so that way it will know when it starts up that that's what it should use to boot from so we can do the installation. So you say next. Just kind of make sure you've got everything right. We'll say finish. Then if we go back to our virtual machines. There's our virtual machine. Let's click on it. It's warning you that the tools are not installed. We'll take care of that once we actually get 2025 going. The tools allow for things and interaction so that the ESXi can actually tell the Windows, hey, please do a graceful shutdown. And it can get information on the IP and other kinds of stuff going on. One thing that I found when I was trying to do these boots is that I wasn't able to always get it to quickly boot from that virtual CD. But what I ended up having to do, I went into Edit, and I went into Options and then Boot Options. And then I said, the next time the virtual machine boots, force it to go into the BIOS setup screen so that way I could pick and make sure that it's going to boot off of the CD. So we'll say save. Now we'll click start, and it's going to open up a little screen here. And then we want to tell it we want to go off of the CD-ROM drive. And then quickly hit return so that way it does boot from it. So now we've got our installer coming up, and we can just take the defaults. Yeah, we want to install Windows Server. I agree. Everything's going to be deleted. Say next. So you've got kind of different flavors we can go with. There's this standard of eval, which you notice here it says omits most of the Windows graphical environment. You're mainly doing command line PowerShell. That's probably good if you really want to get down to the metal and you really don't want any kind of GUI or very limited GUI. I know a lot of the like Ubuntu and some of the others have the same idea, is that it's just the very core services, or you can get it where you've got some sort of desktop. I kind of prefer something where I can actually have a desktop sort of experience. Just makes it a little easier. You're just kind of used to how things are. Plus, when you're looking up, how do I do this? How do I do that? A lot of the stuff refers to and sort of assumes that you've got the desktop experience. So we'll say next. And the usual, accept. Okay. And so it found the 90 gig, which was the virtual disk that we got created. So we'll say sure. Keep nothing. Go for it. And we'll come back when there's something a little more interesting to look at. Okay, so here we come to where we're going to create our password for the administrator password or administrator account. Finish. And here we are. We are in Windows 2025. And you notice it says press Control-Alt-Delete to unlock. Well, we're kind of in this weird virtual window. We can't really do a true Control-Alt-Delete because if we do that on our keyboard, it's going to, reboot our PC that we're on. So if you come up here to Actions, come down to Guest OS, Send Keys, and pick that first one. Now we can log in. So I want to show you a couple things that I would do right away with your Windows 2025 to make it a little easier for administration and browsing around on it, etc. Let's see, if we click on local server, first thing I would do is where it says remote desktop. Right now it's disabled. So that means that we can't use RDP to get into it. So I would click on here and we want to allow, sure, apply, and OK. Okay, maybe it's still doing its thing. But that way, oh, there it is, enabled. Okay, this way, then again, we can use our RDP. What I would probably also want to do is change perhaps the name and IP. So let's go to System. And here we've got our device name. And let's say rename this PC. So let's call it ESXi Win Server 2025. So say next. And it's probably going to want to restart. Yep, let's restart. We'll just let it go. And you'll see how quickly it comes back because it is VM. Boom, we're already there. Okay. Same thing, action, guest OS, send key, Control-Alt-Delete. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to change the IP address instead of it having one that's giving out by DHCP. That way it's consistent, especially if I'm going to be doing other things with it. Maybe I need an IP to refer to. We can get out of here. We can click down here where it's got the network and internet settings. We're going to go to our network adapters. Click on this. Go into properties. Actually, we'll do more adapter options. They always seem to put these in little different places every time. Well, let's go into IP4. Uncheck that. I'm going to give it something simple, 99. And DNS will be the same. And say OK. Close. Instead of using this kind of interface, let's do the remote desktop. And what I like to use is the remote desktop connection manager. And what we can do is we'll add a server, and just to make sure that we can get to it, we'll just use the IP address. What I'm going to do is put in profile that will allow me to log in to that machine. So I'm going to say administrator and my password. And for my display settings, I'm going to scale to fit, And then now let's try to connect. And then this way it already sends it through and I don't have to think about it. So now we've got Windows 2025 running. Just like anything else, I would go in and check for any Windows updates. And more likely than not, there's going to be them. It seems like everything that comes out. Oh, yeah, there we go. So I just let these run. Now let's go back into ESXi host. So here's the host. We can see how we're doing. 68% of the CPU on the machine is being utilized. 57% of the memory, storage. So this is showing overall. So if we were to create another VM, then of course that would take away from some of that. If we look at the specific Windows server, it kind of gives you an idea of it's already using, maybe 6.5, 7 gig of the memory, 102 of the storage, a little bit of the CPU. You can, of course, actually I forgot, we do need to install the VM tool. So we can say action, and then we can pick install VM tools. And what that is going to do is that it's going to mount the tools as a DVD drive. So if we go back here, you'll see now there's a DVD. And it's a good thing to do this, before you're going to start doing any productional type stuff with it or too far down the line. Again, it gives you the ability to do shutdowns much more gracefully, gives better information on how the machine is doing. So down here, you'll say next. We'll just take typical, install. It's back again. Okay, finish. And then it wants to restart. We'll just let this guy finish and do its downloads, and then we'll just do one big restart. Whatever you end up doing with Windows Server 2025, that's up to you. If you want to experiment, if you want to see what the differences are between it and Windows 11, see as far as performance goes, setting up Active Directory, and maybe logins from your other machines into it. You'll notice down here, this was saying it's valid for 180 days. And every time you go into it, it will show that. Personally, I'm still a Proxmox person, although I would say that the interface for creating VMs, VMware, I think, has got it a little beat. I think it feels a little more structured, maybe hides some of the things that you really have to think about where you would on Proxmox. Although Proxmox is great because you can get down in the weeds. You can do a lot of the weeds with VMware too, but I feel like it's primarily designed to get you up and going. Kind of interesting. I know I'll probably tinker with it